I've made several unsuccessful attempts to get into game development in the past, and every time I failed, it's been because of a lack of planning, feature creep, and most importantly, generic, vague ideas that don't translate well into interesting mechanics. I'd argue that these are the main reasons that at least 95% of beginners fail when attempting to get into game development. So last year I made a bold choice, to attempt game development again, and see where I'm at after 1 year, assuming 3 important facts. My ideas are probably garbage, my first tries are going to suck, and I'm prepared to spend all my free time working on this because I know that eventually I'll get better. And here we are, 1 year later. Let's run through exactly where I'm at to get a general idea of the work I've done. I've worked on 4 projects. I've participated in 1 game jam. I created my first Steam page. I've released a demo for my first commercial game on Steam and on itch. I've worked on this commercial game for about 430 hours. I've made a total of $24.45 gross revenue from game development, from itch users paying for the demo, which is $24.45 more than I expected to make. Game development is a complex and uncertain career. You might look at these numbers and think that they're terrible, and hopefully you're doing much better. Or you might look at these numbers and think that they're amazing. In either case, this career is hard enough to see each other as enemies. We are here to help each other out. Please share in the comments what you've done right and what you've done wrong. There's enough space for all of us to succeed. And after 1 year, I've learned some lessons along the way that I want to share to make your journey less frustrating. Do not try to make your dream game as your first game. It'll end badly. Your first game does not have to be amazing. It'll probably won't, and that's okay. In my opinion, your first game should be short, very simple, and explore some fun mechanic you can come up with and nothing more. In my case, I made this little spaceship game called Black Hole Trash. The gameplay is just you shooting at enemy spaceships and picking up the debris to refill your ammo. That's it. This simple project helped me understand how to build a simple game loop. Finishing games is perhaps the most important skill in game development. It gives you the push and motivation of seeing your work out there. This is why it's important to work on short, smaller scope projects in the beginning, to understand the process of finishing and building the boring parts of a game that aren't as exciting. A big lesson learned after my last attempts at game development was that sharing the progress of my games was very important to gain following, learn from others, and most importantly, keep myself motivated. By sharing your progress online, you keep yourself accountable for the work you've done, and you can actually look back at everything you've accomplished when you're feeling burnt out. The last time I quit game development, it was for many reasons, but keeping all my work to myself definitely did not help. Showing Quetzal's progress in the form of tweets and devlogs has helped me get a ton of valuable feedback from players. Another big milestone was exhibiting the game at a gaming festival, as it was the first time I saw players experience the game in real life. This did not only provide a lot of great feedback, but made me realize that the work that I had been doing outside my day job was now real, and was actually impacting other people. That was a priceless experience. When you actually do start work on a commercial project, it's extremely important to consider the genre. Understanding the market is key. In my case, I made the choice to start working on Quetzal as my first commercial project. While I don't regret it, and I am sure I will finish it, I now understand that platformers are games that tend to perform worse than other genres on Steam, so lesson learned. Game development as a solo dev or a small team can be very overwhelming, especially if it's the first time. By connecting with communities of people who are going through a similar journey, the process gets easier and more fun. I have met many indie devs who have been extremely helpful. They have provided advice, feedback, and support. This has taught me to also give back to other devs and help out whenever I can. We are all learning as we go, and by sharing our own experiences, we can help each other grow better and faster than if we did everything alone. A great example is the Indie Game Collective, a small community of indie devs, streamers, and content creators who support each other to grow. And also a big shout out to Daisy Games, Mr. Elliptic, Tall Story Games, Low Tech Games, and True Colors. You should check them all out if you don't know about them. I will leave links in the description. If working full-time, you have to understand the sacrifices that go along with game development. The time needed to build anything remotely interesting is huge. Take the hours I have spent working on Quetzal, a total of 430 hours in 1 year. That's less than 2 months. And this is time I chose to spend working instead of doing other things. So not only understand the sacrifices, but build discipline. It's easy when you're motivated by your project, but especially hard when you're feeling burnt out. I have personally kept pushing by thinking about the bigger picture and the long-term results. Every mechanic, asset, and line of code you create will be useful for the next one. Everything you make will allow you to be more efficient in the future, allowing you to move quicker and smarter. a great learning to keep in mind while you're implementing a complex feature, like a save system. This might be one of the most valuable lessons I've learned this year. It's the first time I've actually had players, which has been a massive learning curve. Players are the ones who will buy your game, so understanding what they like and dislike about your game is very important, even if it means making decisions you wouldn't even have thought about. In the end, you're making the game for them to have the best possible experience. For example, I've changed some controls in Quetzal based on player feedback, which I would not have thought about. Humans tend to be better at some things than others. When working solo or in a small team without much experience, it's practically impossible to assume you will be able to make a game that can shine in all directions. By understanding the aspects you enjoy the most about game development and the ones you're willing to settle on, you'll have a better time finishing projects. It's better to have a finished game than a perfect prototype, so use your strengths. In my case, what I enjoy the most is level design and coming up with mechanics, so that's where I spend most of my time. On the other hand, I don't consider art to be one of my strengths, so I go for minimal art styles to communicate effectively to the player, without spending too much time on details. Game feel is one of those things that can drastically make games feel better without much effort. Since I believe this is one of the most important aspects of a good game, I made this video for you where I go into great detail of the additions I implemented in Quetzal to make the game feel more alive. To gain a better understanding of how game feel impacts a game, play your favorite games, but pay close attention to the small things that make it feel alive. The small details that make the game feel like a game, and not just a bunch of sprites colliding on screen. Thanks for sticking around, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I would love to hear about your own experiences with game development in the comments. Until the next one.